Alright, we're going to do a flight today on Infinite Flight Simulator, the app for Android and Apple phones. It's an extremely popular flight simulator, and for an app, it is high quality, I think, for a phone app. But there are room for a ton of improvements. Alrighty, I'm going to take off from Philadelphia, runway 35. That's a long ride to the gate, but that's the life of a pilot. Now, I'm going to try a new plane today. Let's try the 737-900. That's a nice livery right there. It is a little bit challenging when you go from one type of a plane to another because there could be different nuances. It'll handle differently, obviously different weights, wingspans, speeds. We want to start slowing down, that sort of thing. Looks like Philly's got a 3D airport, which is good. This game definitely needs more of those. Alright. What we want to do is taxi, so we got to figure out how to do this. So I look at the map here and I say, okay, I want to go up this way and then come back. So up this way and then come back this way. But that's easier said than done here. Alright, ground services, push back, attach, tug, parking brakes off, push. There it goes. So we want to get onto this yellow line. And then we're going to go up to this intersection, which is basically right here. And then take a, well, actually, we'll have to go over. We'll go over to there and then up here. The tug should push you all the way out to the yellow line. If anyone knows the exact rule about how far the tug should push you out, that'd be cool, but as far as I know, they should push you all the way to the yellow line. Does the tug have to line your wheel up with the yellow line? I really don't know. That'd be another. I think they do, but maybe not, because once you turn the engines on, which they already are on here, you can easily just get right over to the yellow line. Now, this, as I've mentioned many times before, it's challenging to taxi in this game because your speed is not easily, you can't input a speed easily, basically, so certainly don't want to. I don't know if you could use autopilot too. No, I doubt you could do that to program in a speed. See, it's going too fast here. Hold on a second. I think I might have overshot the intersection. Yeah, I did. So it was right there. I missed it. Taxiing is a pain in the yin-yang. Alright, we'll go to this next one. This one's right here. Okay. Take a right-hand turn. Definitely want to slow down. Let's see, it's just a pain. Now this over here, the rudder thing, if you pull that down, you you can get a percentage of brake so you don't slam the brakes on. But sometimes that's not easy to use either. Oh wait, now I'm going over to the runway. Alright, this is exactly what I didn't want to happen here. See, taxiing is just a pain in the neck. This game, I mean, I don't know how else to say it. So now I'm taxiing on the runway. I feel like about 2 inches tall right now. The air traffic control's pretty mad at me. But luckily, most of these airports don't have an air traffic controller. On the expert server, many airports will. It'll tell you which ones have them. There are real people that are doing air traffic control at some of the major airports. I steer clear of the expert server because I don't want to get penalized every time I make a stupid mistake, you know what I mean? But flying in real life, really can't afford any mistakes, I suppose. Alright, well, miracles and miracles, we got where we had to go. Not lined up in the center. Sometimes it's easier to steer from outside the plane. Okay, it's more centered. Alright, now we're gonna do a flight plan. There's nobody at this airport, so it's why don't just do it right here. Alright, put in your first waypoint. We're gonna go down to Washington, D.C. Taking off Philadelphia. Some planes in the air going to Baltimore. We're gonna go to which one? This is Ronald Reagan. How about Dulles? Pick the runway we want. I'm gonna go right down the middle. 1C, is that what it says? No. 1C. Alright, we're lined up here. Ready for takeoff. Flaps 5. 5 or 10. Either way, parking brake's off. watch from the tower. I take off. I'm looking at the ground speed down there in the lower left. 140. We can rotate like this, and then just sort of slowly go up, and then you're gone. Here, gear up. Longitudinal navigation, or I was going to say lateral navigation, but I can't be right. I'm sure it's doing this thing. I don't trust these controls. They don't always work. On the 737-800, especially, the navigation settings just don't work all the time accurately. So I want to try this new plane to get an idea how accurate these are. Maybe it's something I'm doing wrong, but I don't know. I don't think it is. So anyways, alright, the higher we go, the less fuel you burn. We climb at a efficient rate too. Alright, flying out of Philadelphia. I used to live near Philadelphia over here, and actually over here in New Jersey. Actually, you might be able to see exactly where I lived. Up here near Trenton, which is, I'm guessing up in this area, where you can see that flashing red dot over here. I mean, flashing white dot. I lived maybe a mile from this Delaware River. The Delaware River. And we're right where Washington crossed, I believe. Right near Trenton. Bordentown was the name of the town. And I did appreciate the fact that I was young when I lived there. It was my first apartment ever. I was 20. And but I did appreciate the fact that I knew I lived in a cool town. There's no question about it. Old town, and right on the river, Delaware River. I didn't know I cared about American history yet. Oh. Even pilots gotta sneeze. Holy moly. That was no good. But yeah, so I lived over in New Jersey because I was stationed at McGuire Air Force Base, which is over here. And you can actually see it on the map here. KWRI, is that what it says? Joint Base McGuire Dix Lakehurst. I lived on Fort Dix and worked on McGuire Air Force Base. So I'd go to Philadelphia every now and then. Back in those days, of course, when you're in the service and you're just an enlisted guy with no money, you don't have, I didn't have a car for the first year, I think. So I didn't get over to Philadelphia too much the first year. But I was able to visit both New York City and Philadelphia. Those are some crazy days when you worked hard and you played hard, I guess. So young, though, to have your own apartment, like, beyond my own. I was really concerned with getting a college education. I remember that being one of my biggest concerns at that time. Alright, we're still climbing. Flap should be 0, obviously. 96 nautical miles until we click the vertical navigation button. We can click it actually when we stop climbing, but the vertical navigation will start in 93 nautical miles now. And that will bring us to our landing altitude automatically, right to the airport. If everything goes well, we can do an ILS approach, which is just click the approach button and the plane should basically land itself. You got to put the gear down, do the flaps, thrust reversers on landing, set the auto brakes. So there are some things to do. And of course, if the ILS doesn't work, which I've been having that problem on other planes, then you got to be ready to take over the controls and land manually. You always got to be ready for that. On this game, and probably in real life too. I don't really know because I'm not a real pilot, but I gotta imagine you have to be alert to anything that could happen, obviously. But elsewhere on YouTube, you can listen to, these conversations pilots have before it crashes, and it's just shocking. Like the pilots who crash are just sometimes the just absolute nimrods. So when they crash due to pilot error, you know they should never have been a pilot in the first place. I think you can tell by what they say in the cockpit recordings that they shouldn't be flying. And that seems to happen a lot if you watch YouTube, but of course it is rare. The last commercial airliner to actually crash in the United States was pilot error, and it was a plane in 2009, a turboprop plane heading into Buffalo, New York. The one before that, the Sullenberger one, was in January 2009. That nobody was hurt in that one. And then there was a total fatal crash where only the co-pilot survived back in 2006. That was the last jet fatal crash in the United States, 2006. That one was, I believe, in Louisville, Kentucky, or in that area anyway. You never want to see that. Here we go, coming down the river. Delaware off to our left. Bottom of New Jersey off to our left. Southern New Jersey is nice. Back in the early 90s, I was struck by how poor Atlantic City was when I drove there. I couldn't really believe how destitute that city looked. That was a sign of things to come for many cities in America. Of course, most of them are in the Midwest and the South. The Mississippi Delta, those areas are just absolutely impoverished. It's very sad. I mean, some of the towns in Mississippi, Arkansas, all the way up to Gary, Indiana, have poverty rates for children 40, 50, 60% of children in some towns are growing up in poverty. The good thing about that is that kids don't usually realize it. Supposedly. A lot of them will say that when they grow up, they didn't know that they were poor. But I think that should bother all of us. We want to live in the best country possible. We want it to look nice everywhere, don't we? Well, evidently, some people don't. Chatting away again, and I forgot to increase the speed. That's why the FAA says you can't talk under, I think, 10,000 feet. Unless you're talking about the flight. Making our way up to 30,000. Yeah, so Atlantic City, 1993, 1994, a destitute place, let me tell you. Trump Casino was there too, and I remember going to that. That's the whole idea of what's happened in America can be traced back to people like that guy, in my opinion. You concentrate the wealth in 1%. What do you expect? You're gonna get poverty all over the place. Anyways, some people call it political, but I mean, it's common sense that there should be much more wealth equality. I mean, you don't want to live in a third world country, do you? Alright, we're overspeeding a little bit. That's not to say get rid of capitalism. Capitalism has been great. It's worked. It should work for the country. It has the ability to solve these problems without even thinking about it. But it's the will of the people. You have to, there's too much greed at the top. It's got to be forced upon these people by law, with laws. It's not that big a deal. Capitalism can take care of every problem in America. But there's got to be laws that makes it work for America. Or anywhere else in the world. But democracy and capitalism are the best ways to go, in my opinion. Certainly democracy, you never want to lose that. This is the first democracy that's lasted in world history, the United States. So I guess as we're flying out of Philadelphia and into Washington, I guess this conversation is somewhat appropriate. Philadelphia is where they signed the Declaration of Independence in 1776. I apparently am one of the few Americans that know we won our independence from Great Britain, because people don't read history anymore. Or when they go to high school, they sleep through it. I don't know. They just don't care. But you should care, because it's not a guarantee that you're going to have that forever. That's just a fact. Alright, I gotta pull back on the overspeeding here. Ground speed's 452. .82 knots. Almost at our maximum altitude. We're gonna slow down again now because the air gets thinner the higher you go up. We're burning less fuel and we're going faster, so it's efficient. But the engines can get damaged if the air gets too thin. We went up to 40,000. There was a flight, an airliner that did do that. They went to the maximum height that the airplane could go to when there was no passengers on it, and they wanted to check it out. Went to 41,000 feet, and the engines couldn't take it. They both engines died. The plane crashed. Last jet crash was 2006. Last fatal jet crash. 2006. That was the airliner that got on the wrong runway. As I said, I believe it was Louisville. They were supposed to go on the longer runway, and they lined up on a short runway, and the air traffic control didn't notice either. It was dark out in the morning, and they just took off, and they had half the runway they needed. They ended up hitting a bunch of trees and killed everybody on board except the co-pilot who made the mistake. He lived, ironically. He's still living to this day. And boy, I've seen comments on interviews with him and the survivors of that crash, the living relatives of the people who died. Didn't have much good things to say about that guy, let me tell you. That co-pilot is disabled for life. And that was the last fatal jet crash in the United States. The turboprop was 2009. That was the last fatal plane crash for a commercial airliner. 2009. So that's pretty remarkable, because 2009 was 14 years ago. 2006 was 17 years ago. To not have any incidents in that amount of time is really, I think, a miracle. How many flights have there been? 1 million since then? And to not have any crashes, fatal crashes. There's been plenty of landings that were crashed, you can call them a crash because you didn't have your landing gear ripped off or whatever. Or, a winglet broke off, or who knows what happened. But there's been rough landings. You go off the end of a runway. Things like that do happen. The city of Baltimore underneath us. Famous author Edgar Allan Poe died in Baltimore. He wrote The Telltale Heart and a bunch of other stories. Brooks Robinson recently died, played for the Baltimore Orioles. Hall of Famer, third baseman. I think he had about 13 or 14 gold gloves, maybe even 15, which must be a record. So he was quite a fielder. Of course, I don't remember him. That was a while back. He played in the 60s, and I think he retired in the late 70s, around 77. All right, now how far are we at? Okay, we hit the vertical navigation. We're beginning our descent to Washington Dulles Airport. And because of the weather, we got to go around to the southern side of the airport. We'd already be there now if we didn't have to worry about the weather. But got to go around. Landing on runway 1C. Dulles Airport. It's Andrews Air Force Base, I believe, beneath us, where Air Force One is headquartered, and the other presidential diplomatic planes of the USA. When I was in the service, I did see Air Force One the day before the election in 1993. George Bush was campaigning in Trenton, New Jersey, and as I said, I lived there, but of course I worked on McGuire Air Force Base, and I saw Air Force One, drove right up to it. There were soldiers standing outside of it with machine guns. I drove right by it in my little tug, airport tug, and it was pretty cool. I mean, it was really awesome. I was surprised that people at McGuire Air Force Base didn't seem to care. didn't seem to pay it much attention. I didn't realize that some people just don't care, you know? It's crazy, but I think that I've always been the curious type that's been interested in any, interesting things. So, anyway, that's the airport here. Andrews Air Force Base, Camp Springs, United States. Alright, we're coming around. We're going to make 3 right turns. 3 right turns, not completely right, but varying degrees of turns into Dallas. Definitely tell we're getting lower now. Speed up a little bit too. Crossing the river here. I'm assuming that's the Potomac River. That's the river where Air Florida crashed in 1982 or thereabouts. Hit a bridge right after takeoff. I think that plane took off from Ronald Reagan, which is this airport here, and ended up in the river, basically right about where we are right now. Where's Reagan? It would have crashed about in this area, I think, somewhere over here. That crash had some survivors. I believe 5 people did survive that. But we are coming in a little too fast. So I'm trying to slow down here. Still 15,000 feet to kill. Slow it way down. In this situation, I was chatting away, and I see a lot of videos when I'm talking like this, I forget to hit the VNAV button. So that should be a pre-programmable thing, but it is, but only after your climb is stopped. So it's an easy detail to miss. So in order to slow down, I really got to increase the flaps. We don't want to overshoot the airport. I'm down to 208 knots and dropping. We're okay now. We're dropping at 2,400 feet a minute. So we will make our target altitude of 3,900. At the top of the cone. Then we'll hit the approach button and land. Now we're going to do a hard right turn. Looks like about an 85-degree turn to the right. right now we're flying heading 281. And we're making our turn. You can watch up here the heading changes. 347, 348, 349, 351, 2, 3, etc. The runway is 10 degrees because the runway number 1 means 10 degrees. They get rid of the 0. So that's going to be our rough heading for landing. 10 degrees. We're heading into the airport. Still got some altitude to lose. Or take the flaps back to 10. We can speed it up a little bit. Make sure we'd hit the altitude at the right time, so I really slowed it down. But we were okay. Probably would have made it without any problem. I didn't slow it down that much, of course. Alright, now we're just about at the final approach here. Coming into Washington Dulles. Take it down to 190. Go back to the flaps at 25 because the plane does not want to slow down today. I'm going to put the auto brakes at medium, which arms spoilers, but takes off. It also turns off the spoilers outside of the wings. 3 minutes to landing. Still dropping in speed, but it's very slow. Alright, I'm gonna hit the approach. Approach button engaged. Now that doesn't always happen on the 737-800, so it's nice to see it happen on the 900. Could just be a glitch on the Infinite Flight app for the 737-800. Sometimes the approach button does not work, but it's working right now. On this plane, we don't know if this plane has any glitches yet. This is the first time I've used 737-900. And just flying along great. Looking outside at the day in Washington, D.C. Drop gear. Pull back to 150. Alright, approach mode is going to take us all the way in. This is the view from one of the towers in the area. I don't know if it's the main tower. It doesn't look like it would be, but here we go.
500. 400.
Looks like the winds have blown us over a little bit.
300. 200. 100. 50. 40. 30. 20. 10.
I want to do the spoilers. This is going to be a rough landing. Ugly landing. That was a terrible landing. Was that wind? Must have been. Is that runway green? Yeah, that was 1C was oranged out, which means you got wind shear problems. But you can still land. Well, we get to Washington, and sorry about that awful landing. Thanks for watching.